Earth is crowded. We share this planet with millions of distinct species, ranging from microscopic parasites to massive oceanic predators, towering trees, and high-flying birds. Sorting this massive catalog of life creates an immediate problem. If we group things at the kingdom level, like putting every animal in one single box, the category is too broad to tell us anything useful. But if we jump straight down to class, the groupings become so specific that we lose sight of the bigger evolutionary picture. We need a structural middle ground. That is where the master taxonomic categories come in, the phylum for animals and the division for plants. These levels sit right below kingdom and right above class. Grouping species into a phylum requires scientists to look past superficial outward differences and identify shared foundational body plans. Doing this establishes a systematic way to identify organisms and trace exactly where they came from. The biological hierarchy works exactly like a set of nested folders. It flows downward: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and finally, species. This hierarchy maps perfectly onto humans. We drop from kingdom Animalia through phylum Chordata, class Mammalia, order Primates, family Hominidae, and genus Homo, landing on species Sapiens. Zooming into that first filter, kingdom to phylum, reveals where the most critical anatomical sorting occurs. Pinpointing our exact location on this branching tree strips away the surface-level noise. It reveals the deep biological blueprint we operate on and highlights our closest evolutionary relatives. So, what exact physical traits allow scientists to put a human, a pigeon, and a salmon into the exact same group known as phylum Chordata? We can see the first shared trait in this comparison of 3 different embryos. That glowing line highlights the notochord. It is a flexible, rod-like structure running along the back that acts as a primitive backbone, providing core support and a place for muscles to attach. Notice the second structure running parallel to the notochord. This is the dorsal hollow nerve cord. It is a neural tube on the backside of the body that in higher vertebrates eventually develops into the brain and the spinal cord. To qualify as a chordate, an animal must also exhibit pharyngeal gill slits and a post-anal tail. But here is the catch. These features only need to appear at some point during embryonic development. They don't have to stick around for adulthood. Discovering these identical structural blueprints in early development proves a shared evolutionary lineage. It explains why such radically different adult animals are anchored to the same phylum. Once inside phylum Chordata, we branch out into 5 major classes. First are the fishes, class Pisces. These were the first true vertebrates to evolve, perfectly adapted to water with gills, fins, and a 2-chambered heart. Next is class Amphibia. The name literally translates to dual life. Frogs and salamanders live both in water and on land, breathing through moist skin and lungs while relying on a 3-chambered heart. Class Reptilia solved a major terrestrial problem. Snakes, lizards, and crocodiles developed dry, scaly skin that prevents water loss, allowing them to permanently conquer dry environments. Then we go airborne with class Aves, the birds. They upgraded to a warm-blooded 4-chambered heart system, completely modifying their forelimbs into wings, covered in feathers to sustain flight. Finally, we reach class Mammalia. This is our specific group, defined by the presence of mammary glands, body hair, external ears, and the ability to give live birth. Scales, feathers, and hair are all rigorous survival adaptations tailored to completely different environments. Yet, strip them away, and you find the exact same underlying chordate blueprint in all 5 classes. Chordates represent just one slice of the animal kingdom. The vast majority of life evolved entirely without notochords or spinal columns, branching into several distinct invertebrate phyla. It starts with simple aquatic structures. Phylum Coryphora includes the basic pore-bearing sponges. Then there is phylum Cnidaria, represented by organisms like this pulsing jellyfish, which possess radial symmetry and specialized stinging cells. The worm-like creatures are split into 3 groups: the flat, often parasitic platyhelminthes, the unsegmented cylindrical nematodes, and the annelids, like earthworms, which feature segmented bodies and closed circulatory systems. by sheer numbers, phylum Arthropoda dwarfs everything else. This is the largest animal phylum on Earth, containing insects, spiders, and crabs, all defined by jointing legs and rigid exoskeletons. Rounding out the major groups are phylum Mollusca, covering soft-bodied animals like snails and octopuses that rely on a muscular foot, and phylum Echinodermata, which includes marine animals with spiny skin like the starfish. This sprawling lineup of phyla shows how evolution engineered completely different mechanical solutions for survival, none of which required a central nerve cord. When we step out of the animal kingdom and look at botany, there is a strict rule you need to remember. For plants, scientists use the term division instead of phylum. The plant divisions scale up in complexity. Thallophyta covers the simplest algae without distinct roots or stems. Next is Bryophyta, the non-vascular mosses that act as the amphibians of the plant world. Then we see the first true vascular plants in division Pteridophyta. These plants, like the fern uncurling here, use spores instead of seeds to reproduce. Finally, we reach the seed-bearing divisions. Gymnosperms are the cone-bearing plants with naked seeds, like pine trees. Angiosperms are the flowering plants, like apple trees, which carefully enclose their seeds inside fruits. The terminology is different, but the logic is identical. Division performs the exact same hierarchical evolutionary sorting function for flora as phylum does for fauna. The entire taxonomic hierarchy was originally built by observing physical traits, but today the modern field of evolutionary developmental biology, or EvoDevo, has provided the structural validation for this classification system. Modern DNA sequencing confirms physical classifications. Tracing the genetic code backward shows organisms in the same phylum diverged from a shared common ancestor. Conserved developmental genes dictate shared embryonic structures, surviving intact across millions of years. Biological classification provides a record of deep evolutionary history, serving as a legible map of how life diverged over eons. Let's lock in the most critical facts. A phylum, or division, is a higher taxonomic category that groups related classes together based on common, fundamental features. All chordates share a notochord and a dorsal hollow nerve cord at some stage of life. And remember, humans belong to class Mammalia, which sits securely inside phylum Chordata. Keep the terminology straight. Animals belong to a phylum, while plants belong to a division. Mastering this hierarchical system provides the essential framework to understand the complex organization of all biodiversity on Earth.